Hey, what's up? My name's Cameron Doherty, and this is the Logitech Logi Dock. It's a brand new product from Logitech, just released this month, and I have been eagerly awaiting the opportunity when I would be able to get one and try it out for myself. It's a really unique product that's something that's combining two things that you might already have on your desk or that might be upgrades for what you have on your desk. Specifically, it combines a high-quality speakerphone with a USB hub. And that USB hub has the capability to output to two different monitors, giving you the ability to have one connection to your laptop while still maintaining two displays and fantastic audio quality. So this is something that I've been looking forward to. I've never found it in myself to spend the couple $100s to buy a high quality USB hub. And with audio, I've honestly mostly stuck to the simplicity of using onboard audio on my laptop or just using some basic speakers on my desk. But what this does is this gives you the ability in one very small package to be able to have both a great quality speaker, great quality microphones, and a USB hub that allows you to put it all in one spot. So to use Logi Dock, all you gotta do is toss it down the middle of your desk and build around it. So attach it to your laptop with the included USB-C cable. Then you can use one or two displays. And then there's a myriad of USB ports. So you can add things like a webcam or a mouse and keyboard or charge devices, etc. All of it allows you to do that right from the center of your desk and right from one small, quite nice looking package. So looking at the device itself, you can get it in either this, what I think is a pretty beautiful black color, or a white version. And in terms of compatibility, there's either a Microsoft Teams specific version, or you can get one that's labeled UC, which I'm assuming means universally compatible, though honestly they don't indicate anywhere what UC stands for. I elected to get the UC one because I use various different systems in work and also outside of work, and I wanted to make sure that this was able to handle all of them. So they do quote compatibility for all the main softwares that you might be interested in using, so that includes Teams, Zoom, Google products, etc. They do have various certifications, or they're pursuing them, and you can view all of that on the Logitech website if you want to make sure that it's going to be able to handle what you want to use it for. Physically, the device, when it's facing you, is pretty simple. There's a handful of buttons on the top in order to mute the device, change the volume, and turn on and off your camera. Though I should note that the camera on-off button currently doesn't work. As I mentioned, this literally just came out, and they're saying coming soon for that functionality. So there's still some kinks they're working out. I'm expecting a firmware update to be able to add that pretty soon. This middle button here is used with Logitech's software, Logitune, which allows you to open that up, connect to a calendar, and it'll automatically notify you when you have meetings coming up, and with just one tap you can join the meeting. On the Teams version, it functions a little bit differently, where I think you have certain specific Teams functions that handles, but I don't think it has the capability to do the one-touch meeting joining. Either way, I'm not too wild about the one-touch meeting joining, because the last thing I want to do is accidentally meet that and join a meeting that I wasn't anticipating being thrown into, especially if there's a chance that I might have a camera turned on unexpectedly. Seems a little bit dangerous to me, but overall, I think it's a really neat, clean package with the buttons up top. When you turn it over to the side, there is a single USB-C located on the side, just for ease of access. So this is a 7.5 watt charging port, so you could use it for something like charging a phone, charging some headphones, whatever you need easy access to on your desk. All of the other ports exist around the back, and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff here. You've obviously got the power input, which we'll talk about a little later. You've got a Bluetooth button, which allows you to connect a phone or another Bluetooth device and really just use this as a Bluetooth speaker. There's the USB-C out, which is what takes the data in from your laptop and also provides power to your laptop. We have the ability to connect to two different displays, one via HDMI and one via DisplayPort. And then we have some additional USB ports. So we have two more USB-Cs. Those are both 5 watt USB-Cs. and we have two USB A's, one 5 watt and one 7.5 watt. And there's a couple interesting things as it relates to those USB ports, and I'll talk more about those when I get to the power section, because I'm wondering if some of the delays of the product and also some of the sort of coming soon, seeming like they need some firmware updates, was partly around power management, and I'll explain more about what I mean later. Now, let's talk about what's probably the most important feature for you. So this is a speakerphone device, so you're gonna wanna know whether it can do high quality audio pickup from their microphones and also whether you enjoy the sound from the speakers. So we're gonna test just that, and to start, we're gonna be attaching power to give this guy some juice, and then we're gonna be hooking it up to the MacBook. And ultimately, as I mentioned, you can use this as a Bluetooth speaker, so you don't have to connect it up like this, but the most common use case is gonna be on your desk for work-like things, and so therefore, probably gonna just hook it up and use it in that way. So in order to give it the most accurate representation, I am gonna face it towards me, because this is the orientation you would expect on your desk. And we're gonna go ahead and start up an audio recording. Okay, so you are now hearing the audio from the Logi Dock. Now, my impression of the audio pickup from the microphones was that it sounds a little bit like a sort of corporate style conference phone. And so something you would see in a boardroom, something like that. The sound is a little bit hollow and a little bit distant at times, but overall it is much better than some of the microphones I've tried on different webcams and about comparable to what I'd expect from most onboard microphones. So all in all, I'd say it's good, but not great. The place that it does excel is if I step away, and that's where I find it most interesting, because it is designed to be in more of a business conference setting. So you could have this at a table with numerous people sitting around it. And these 6-way microphones are designed to pick up the audio regardless of where you're going. So I tried this in my office, wandering around place to place, and the audio is still able to pick me up almost as if I was still sitting right in front of it. Obviously, this is going to give you the best audio quality, but you can still have good audio quality while you're moving about your space. Next, let's talk about the speaker quality, because next to hearing your own voice on a conference line, the next best thing is going to be next most important thing is going to be whether you can hear the people speaking to you, and then also maybe play a little bit of music in your spare time to pass the day. Rather than wearing headphones, you can use these. And so let's play a song here to hear what the audio sounds like. And so we're going to switch back to the audio on my lapel mic, and we'll start up the song. So that's about half volume on a MacBook for context, and it really shines through quite well. If you've ever used a UE Boom, a subsidiary of Logitech, I've had one for many, many years, and I absolutely love the audio quality of it. I think they definitely took a little bit of the tech from UE, because there is a similar sound there. I would most liken it to the UE Mega Boom if you've used those before, because it's got a heavy bass and a really full, rich sound. Now, in the Logi Tune app, you can adjust some EQ settings, though I found that the bass was pretty high regardless of how you did it. So if anything, I would say it's a little bit bass heavy, but if you like that, great. And honestly, I think it does sound nice when you're dealing with vocals, because it gives it a little bit more impact, a little bit more oomph, and it sounds a little bit more natural, to me at least. A lot more people are going to have the opportunity to consider getting a MagSafe charger for themselves. So now that I've lived with it for a year, here's 10 things I wish I knew before I got one. To my untrained ears, I think it sounds amazing, and particularly playing music and having fun with it, it can get super loud and really bassy and really makes for a fun time. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show was that there's a little bit of a combo here. Because it's a speakerphone, you automatically are having it block out the sound that it's producing. And what that's designed for is if you're having a back and forth and you both start talking at the same time, you don't wind up with any sort of weird reverb action, things like that. But what I found is that even if you have some music playing out of it or some other sound, as long as it's not a human voice, it will pretty much block that out. So let's try it again. We're gonna pick back up with our song, and I'm gonna keep talking and see how it does. And I'll gradually make the volume louder so that we can see what the impact is. So we will start this going again. And so I'll keep talking. We're using the Logi Dock as the audio source, and we've got the music playing. So I'll switch back and forth in post here, and hopefully I can make it sound half decent so you understand what the sound is like ambiently versus what the Logi Dock is picking up. Because the people on the other line of the phone are going to want to just hear your voice. But even if there's some other things coming out of your speaker, they'll still hopefully be able to hear you. So overall, I was really impressed with the audio quality. I think from a brand like Logitech that makes great audio equipment, both within Logitech's brands and then also within some of their other brands, I think it was expected, but this really did at least meet, if not exceed, my expectations in terms of how it was going to sound. Okay, laptop back out of the picture. Let's talk about the 230 watt elephant in the room, and that is the power adapter for the Logi Dock. It is a monster. So this is a 230 watt power adapter, and you can see it's a very similar footprint to the Logi Dock itself. It is quite hefty and definitely going to have to be a consideration in your setup as you're managing all of your wires of where this is going to sit. Thankfully, there is a decently long cable on both ends to be able to allow you to stash it somewhere, either on the floor or with a lot of support, stash it underneath your desk somewhere. And this comes down to what I think is probably one of the reasons why this product got a little bit delayed, and that's the power. And so I think they're running into two main issues with power based on just the documentation that they've provided. And so number one is around charging of specifically cell phones. So you've got all of these great USB ports. You've got two USB-Cs and two USB-As in the back, plus the one USB-C on the side. But there's a little bit of unusual behavior. And so this is all outlined in Logitech's documentation. If you're curious, you can read more there. But as this thing just came out, and I've been reading up on it today, that documentation actually was tweaked today. I noticed as I was reading it one time, and then I went back to the page later, and it had been expanded to provide a little bit more detail. So they're probably already getting questions about this. And so this is all subject to change, but just to give you the update or the latest as of the time of filming. The good news is that you should be able to charge your phone somewhere on the Logi Dock, no matter what. And ultimately, it seems like this must be a problem with the way that the newer iPhones draw power, because they're specifically calling out iPhones, they're specifically calling out kind of 12 and beyond iPhones. And so if you want to charge by USB-C, if you use this side port, it will work great. I've tried it, tested it, works fantastic, no problems. If you try to use either of the back USB-Cs, you will get an initial blip seeming like it's going to charge, and then a disconnect and it stops charging. So neither one of those are able to charge an iPhone. I was specifically trying it with both an iPhone 13 and with an iPhone 12 Pro, and both of them behaved exactly the same. If you want to charge via USB-A, you've got two options on the back. You've got the 7.5 watt version, which is denoted with a little lightning bolt. That one works regardless. The 5 watt one, interestingly, only works if you have a computer attached. And I thought, honestly, I was misreading the documentation when it explained this, but it's true. If you have no computer attached, but you have power, you will not be able to charge with it. But as soon as you attach a computer, then you suddenly do get power to that USB port. So if anyone has any ideas of why this might be the case, let me know down in the comments, because I'm super curious to figure out why this would be working this way, but I do not know enough about the internals. Certainly not going to tear this guy apart because I spent too much money on it. But also, I just don't know that much about electrical engineering. So there could be a really reasonable reason for why this is the case. But like I said, the good news is if you use either the higher powered USB-A or the higher powered USB-C on the side, you will be able to charge your phone, but you also just need to be a little bit strategic about where you put everything else to make sure that you've got a port with the appropriate amount of juice. So that brings me to the second oddity with power that I think might have delayed the release of the Logi Dock, and that's around how it impacts your display outputs. So as I mentioned on the back, there is an HDMI port and a DisplayPort. And those both can go as high as 4K and 60 frames per second per their documentation. I haven't fully been able to test it yet, but they can't always go to those resolutions or those frame rates. And part of it depends on whether or not you enable a, quote, high-powered USB process. Now, there's no documentation about what exactly that's doing. I did turn it off and note that I still had power to all of my USB ports, so it's definitely not shutting them off, but it could be decreasing some of those 7.5s. It could be taking power from somewhere and putting it towards display processing, something. Not exactly sure. But when I connected my two monitors, one of which is an ultra-wide kind of 21:9 versus another one is a standard 16:9. And when I connected it initially, it only let me do 1080p on both. So it only let me do the lower resolution on both monitors. It wasn't until I turned off the functionality for the high-powered USB that I was then able to increase my 1440p monitor to the 1440p resolution. And so I think there's a little bit of kind of competing for those watts, basically. And until you sort of disable that setting to free up some extra capacity, then you can't always get to those higher resolutions. So if you're running two standard basic 1080p monitors, not a problem. But if you are somebody that uses 4K monitors or really high refresh rates or things like that, definitely make sure you review Logitech's documentation before you buy it so that you can ensure that you're gonna be able to get the output that you're looking for. But those two things are sort of hints to me of what they may have run into in terms of challenges getting this product released, since it did get delayed around 8 months from their initial plan. All right, so what does this all mean? And for me, I think this means we've got a really exciting future in terms of smaller, all-in-one devices for work from home specific purposes. I think that this is a definite step forward in terms of what you can buy from what's existed in the past to what we finally have now. It's got unbelievable audio. It serves as a great USB hub. It can simplify your desk. It can manage your cables. It can do so many things. And at $400, it's expensive, but not when you take it really as the sum of its parts. So getting a solid USB hub that had good display outputs and multiple USBs available, you were spending at least a couple $100. Add on top of that the ability to have a high functioning speakerphone with both really good audio intake as well as really good speaker quality. And I might argue that those barely exist today, especially with this quality of speaker. But if you did find a good one, you're spending at least another couple $100. So very quickly you wind up right at this price point, and getting it in an all-in-one package that is beautiful, elegant, and will look great on your desk really just ties a bow on it of this being a fantastic deal for what it is. I already can't imagine my desk without it. I'm so excited to start using it day in and day out, and to let you guys know if I find anything problematic or if it's all roses going forward. But based on just one day of use and all the experimentation and playing around that I've been able to do thus far, I think this is a fantastic product that I would highly, highly recommend. So if you're interested in picking one up, there's a link down in the description to get it from Logitech. And as always, while you're down there, remember that the likes are always free and the subs don't cost anything either. So Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care.